Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It is me, Kay, and I'm here today to bring you Beyond the Gate Season 2, Episode 125. Okay, y'all, so we have a few things to discuss today on the docket. um, where do I want to start? We have the situation with Vanessa and Joey. We have, Deanna devising her plan with Doug. We have Jacob and Naomi, and then we have the situation with Anita and the Articulates. So let's start with Anita and the Articulates. So as we know, Anita has gotten her lumpectomy. She's done with her chemo. Now she has to complete her radiation, and then she will be done, and then her cancer will be in remission, right? So Sharon and Lord, I forgot the other lady name. Anyway, her two group members from the Articulates come by to visit her at her home. And so, of course, she's always happy to see them. They're filling her in on what has happened on tour. And so, even down to the point where she found out that Sharon may possibly have a man, you know what I'm saying? So Vernon gives them time to, sit and chat and powwow and everything like that. And so while they're catching up, Vernon comes back in basically and tells them that he has talked to Devon on the phone and he has arranged for them to begin their recording sessions, because they're supposed to be re-recording all of their songs with Barbara's voice, because they want to be able to give Barbara her just due, because they feel like Barbara didn't get a chance to, of course we know what happened to Barbara. So they want to be able to give Barbara her just due, and to let the world hear her voice, let the world know who she is. They've already honored her, as we know in season 1 when they had their reunion concert. And so Vernon has, taken it upon himself to arrange a recording session with Devon in order to get the girls to, start their re-recording journey once Anita is done with her her radiation. And so, we love Vernon. But with the way that Anita was looking, I feel as though Vernon may have overstepped, and she did not want to, she didn't want to confront him while the other girls were there. And so she just went along with it to make it seem like she was just thankful for his help. But I think that she, the way her face looked, she just looked like she didn't approve of, Vernon doing that. And sometimes, I feel like she does think Vernon does too much, but Vernon always has Anita's best interest at heart. He always wants to make sure that she's good. And so in order to make sure that not to make sure that she was recording, or trying to record during her radiation and doing too much, he tried to, nip it in the reins by calling Devon. But Sharon was just like, well, Vernon, how do you know our schedules won't conflict? And he was just like, well, I looked at your tour schedule, you'll be off tour, and then I looked at Anita's radiation schedule, and she'll be done, so that'll be the perfect time for y'all to begin. And so I'm just like, But then also part of me was wondering, like, if Vernon went ahead and set this up because Vernon is trying to start his, he's been asked to, mentor or take over the reins for something political. As we know, a couple episodes ago, he had got an offer. And it looked like when Vernon got that offer, Anita looked a little hesitant about him taking it. So I don't know if she had gotten used to him being around her all the time. And so now that he's stepping back into, what he was interested in and what he had going on, will she feel like he left her or neglected her? Or does she feel like, something's going on? You just have so many thoughts because we're not sure. The story is still developing. So I just kind of noticed that Anita looked uneasy about Vernon, planning this. So Nonetheless, she said, thank you so much. You know, you're the best. You're so attentive. And she gave him a kiss in front of the girls. And then, you know, all looked like it was well. Okay, so next we have, let's talk about Deanna. So, Deanna has come up with this plan, and we are, you know, going with Deanna on this journey to watch her try to bust Joey. She believes that Joey was up to no good, and she's trying to come up with a plan to prove to her mom that Joey is no good. I don't necessarily know how all this is going to be taken, but as we know, you know, Joey thinks that Deanna got something going on, which she does, but you know, she's trying her best to, I guess, pull Vanessa through. You know what I mean? Like, Vanessa is going for it. She's taking all of Deanna's bait. While Vanessa was with Joey, Deanna calls her and tells her how she set up a showing, how she, you know, put fresh flowers in the home, how she had to smell fresh baked cookies or everything. Oh, excuse me, y'all. And so Deanna basically tells Vanessa that she's down at Orphe Jean's and that she wants her mother to come meet her for a quick lunch. So, of course, because Deanna is reaching out, you know, Vanessa has been struggling to, you know, bond with Vanessa or even spend time with Vanessa or, you know, just be around since Doug has passed. Mind you, it's been almost 1 year. And so, Vanessa quickly, without hesitation, goes down to Orphe Jean's. She's just like, you know, Deanna called me. She's down at Orphe Jean's. I'm going to go have lunch with her. And she does. And so, you know, when Vanessa finally shows up to Orphe Jean's, Deanna is telling her how she wants to plan this dinner with Joey and her mom. She wants to go down to Uptown, which, you know, later in the episode, Vanessa does go to Uptown and actually makes a reservation, gets a bottle of wine and everything. She wants to make sure everything looks, you know, peachy keen, you know, during her whole plan or whatever, right? So, it's just interesting because, you know, we also see Deanna meet with Doug's ghost again, you know, and she's telling him the plan that she has made, you know, how Doug tells her how, you know, to go for your mom is easy, she'll take the bait, all that, right? So Vanessa, like I said, not Vanessa, Deanna is explaining to Vanessa, you know, how, you know, she wants to get on Joey's good side, how she wants to meet common ground. And she knows she's playing her mom because she knows her mom is not really going to budge. Her mom is very intense when it comes to Joey, to say the least. And so in order to get on her mom's good side, she has to prove that she likes Joey. So she's planning this dinner. I don't know exactly what Deanna plans, but, you know, after Deanna makes the reservation, you know, at Uptown, and before she has her conversation with Doug, she sends a text message to Darnell, telling Darnell that, you know, we're having this dinner at Uptown at a certain time. I would love for you to be there. Boo, boo. Immediately, Darnell calls because he's just like, what are you up to? Okay, so while Deanna is coming up with her plan, like I was saying, Darnell called her immediately and was like, what's going on? And she was just like, nothing. I just wanted to have a dinner. I told you I'm trying to come around. You know, I'm trying to be in good with Joey. And Darnell was just on the phone. I could only imagine him saying, just don't do too much. But come to find out, he had a frat event, which I'm just like, if school is out and Deanna is with her for summer, they do frat events when school is out. But anyway, I wouldn't know, child. I wasn't in no Greek life. But Anyway, Darnell is just, like, because, they view Darnell as the easy one and Deanna as the complex one. And so Darnell was just like, you know, we'll see how it goes. And then she was just like, I'll fill you in when everything is over with. I'll call you or whatever. And I was just like, okay. Interesting, right? Interesting, right? So, you know what? I'm going to do Joy and Vanessa last. Jacob and Naomi. So we see Jacob and Naomi begin at Orphans, and Jacob is just reassuring Naomi and letting her know that he wants to be there, every step of the way with her. He wants to, hold her hand. He hates that she has had to go through all of this by herself for the last couple of months, but he is ready to, hold her hand through this process or whatever. And so she ends up telling Jacob that she has an appointment, this morning with Dr. McCormick, which is Monica. And she asked him if he's able to meet the appointment or go with her to the appointment. And luckily he says yes, because he works the late shift that day. And so they go to the hospital, they sit down, they meet with Dr. McCormick. And basically, as we know, Dr. McCormick, she was, she worked as a consultant with Anita. And she basically has like this, she tells Dr. McCormick, her plans, which is to get a double mastectomy. And Dr. McCormick is just, I guess there to hear her out and give her advice or help guide her to the best possible plan, for preventative measures. And so you can tell throughout this scene that Jacob is very concerned. And I believe Jacob is not saying his exact feelings, but I also think he is hesitant to possibly tell Naomi his true feelings because, everything with Naomi and the baby didn't necessarily go the best last time. And so even though they've gone to therapy and they seem to be in a better place, I still do think Jacob is holding back his real feelings on how he feels toward Naomi. And I feel like there may be a possibility that Jacob may still want children. And I feel like that was possibly revealed to us when Dr. McCormick told Naomi that there are additional cancers that she may be prone to because of the gene, which included uterine cancer, fallopian cancer, and ovarian cancer. And so, of course, Naomi was just primarily focused on breast cancer, and all her research was based around breast cancer. I guess she wasn't as well informed of the other cancers that possibly could develop, with the gene variant. And so, Jacob does participate in the conversation. Like, he is asking the doctor questions. For example, he noticed that Kat had a complication, or it took her longer to wake up with anesthesia. He asked because, Kat experienced that and they're related, they're blood related. Is it possible that the same thing could happen with Naomi? And, the doctor told him that, all people are different with anesthesia. But like I said, Naomi had planned on getting a double mastectomy. Now, I don't know if she planned on having reconstructive surgery, but Dr. McCormick did tell her that if she decides to move forward with a double mastectomy, that, the way that they do the procedures now, she could, get them removed and then have reconstruction surgery all during the same time period. That would just be, a very, extensive healing, you know what I mean? Because that is a major surgery to then, remove all of the breast tissue, And then to, then if she decides to get implants, to do that as well. With the mutation, Dr. McCormick just wanted to, ensure and reiterate to Naomi that just because you have this variant, it doesn't mean that, you will develop cancer. It just means that you're put at a higher risk. And I think that Dr. McCormick just didn't want to, she just wanted to give perspective because she didn't want Naomi to do anything extreme. Because I understand, or she understood that, Naomi wanted to do whatever it takes to lower her risk. And I think this is a decision, that women have dealt with who have gone through, the same journey as Naomi. So I thought it was great that they, shed a light on that. And like I said a couple episodes ago, this storyline kind of reminds me of a similar storyline that Dr. Contessa had on Married to Medicine, for those who, did watch Married to Medicine. But yeah, and so even with, the mastectomy coming up, and Dr. McCormick telling Naomi about the possible, uterine cancer or anything like that, she asked Naomi, she was just like, well, will you be willing to get a full hysterectomy? And, that's when Jacob was kind of a bit more vocal when, that was mentioned. And, even with the full hysterectomy, Dr. McCormick let Naomi know that, besides hot flashes, because, a woman's hormones are, produced, or, you know what I mean? The thing that makes you a woman, they have hormones that go with it, right? And so, with that, she could have bone density loss. It's just a whole lot more things. Because, as women are more prone to osteoporosis and everything like that. So, it was just a lot. It was just a lot of information to take in. It was a lot of information to consider, because even though Naomi, this is her body, this is her choice, you do want to be considerate of your spouse, or you do want your spouse to be there. So, it was just, I think that one piece really stuck out to me when Jacob was very vocal, because he was just like, now, wait a minute. It seemed like he was, hesitant but cool with the mastectomy. But then when they start talking about the hysterectomy, she was just like, well, Jacob, even in the office, like, what are you hesitant about with the hysterectomy? I thought that we agreed that we wouldn't have kids, or I thought we agreed that kids were not on the table anymore. And so Jacob still looked down, and he looked disappointed, and he was just like, well, yeah, we did decide that we would not extend our family. So I just don't know. I hate this so much, because love is not going to be enough for Jacob and Naomi's journey. And I would hate to see them have to divorce, because Jacob wants a family and Naomi doesn't. But to me, the ship is kind of going in that direction, and I hate that, because I'm just like, dang, they might have agreed to something 5 years ago, but now I think they're not on the same page anymore, unfortunately. And I don't want Jacob to just continue to say, I'm okay, if this is what you want, I'm okay, and then he's not really okay. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But after the appointment, him and Naomi, of course, hug, and, she thanks him for being there. And, she was like, he was so good in the appointment. He asked his questions. He voiced his concerns. And, she was happy with that. She was like, she's finally glad that she was able to tell him that they're in a good place. And then they hug. And then, Jacob he just has this look on his face. And I'm just like, Jacob, oh my God. Like, he just doesn't. I'm not going to say he doesn't know what to do, but he's in a hard place because, you know, he wants to be there. He wants to support his wife. He loves Naomi, but, you know, he may want other things. So, be interested to see how this is going to unfold during this journey in particular. Lastly, we have Joey and Vanessa. Okay. I was listening to an interview the other day, and, you know, I was listening to a creator of a show speak about the show and how, you know, the fans' reaction to certain characters. And, you know, she said something that was so obvious, but, you know, when we're watching the show, we just, you know, bypass all of this, you know. And one thing she said that was so simple but was so true is, you know, this was revealed to the audience, but you have to remember that the character doesn't know. Now, in terms of Joey and Vanessa, as we know, Vanessa found this box in the garage that was Doug. You know, Vanessa is still going through all of Doug's stuff. And so Vanessa bought the box to Joey's house. Number one, I just don't know why Vanessa didn't pick one of her kids to go through the box with. Why did she pick Joey to go through the box with? Number one. Because I'm just like, you know, I just think that, you know, if I was in that predicament, I wouldn't want to go through my husband's stuff while my boyfriend is present. I don't know. That just seems like it would be weird to me, you know, because it's like you still are in love with this person, or you still have love with this person, and that's normal because you spent a good portion of your life with this person, but then, you know, you're pursuing a new relationship with this person and you're trying to move on. You know what I mean? And so, and then just with the, you know, what the audience does know, you know, trying to remember, you know, trying to take note that she doesn't know that Joey did something to Doug. But it's just the fact that, okay, she doesn't know that, but at the same time, she knows that Joey basically took advantage of Doug's addiction. You know what I mean? Or she knows that Doug had an addiction and he got into debt with this person. And so then she's aware of the plan that that Joey basically wanted to use Vanessa's business to launder money through. She knows this part. And then she agreed to that part. You know what I'm saying? And then it's while your husband is still living, you're having an affair or you're in a relationship, you're doing things with this man and your husband knew. And then it's just like you totally disregarded him, you know, and you was doing what you wanted to do. Right? So Joey knows, you know, Joey knows what he's doing is what I'm getting at. So Joey intentionally sent Vanessa in the kitchen to get them scones he was talking about, just so he could have first dibs on going through the box. You know what I mean? And so while he was going through the box, while she was in the kitchen, he found a note. Y'all, we were so close to Vanessa finding out the truth. My God, on today. We were so close. Of course, Joey goes to the box and finds a note that Doug wrote that says, in the time of his death. And it's in the most randomest box because it's in there with what's not Bringston? What's this? Banneker, with a Banneker banner, with a Banneker hat, a soccer ball, and some cleats. And he taped it up. And I'm just like, Doug, you had a home office. You ain't think to put it in there or something? Like, I don't know. Anyway, nonetheless, this is the story that we were given. Right? So as Vanessa is walking back into the living room, Joey sticks the note in his back pocket. Okay? So they flirt, they whatever, you know, ill. I'm over both of them. Okay? So then this is when Deanna calls that I mentioned earlier to ask her mom to come to Orphe Jeans. So she tells Joey the plan and she leaves. So this is when Joey opens the letter up and reads the letter. And as the letter reads, if anything happened to Doug, it's Joey's fault. He said that Joey was responsible for somebody else's death, which I don't even know who that person is that he was talking about. Do y'all remember who that person was that Doug mentioned in that letter that Joey, was responsible for their demise as well? Because I don't recall a person named Tommy. The only person Joey helped take out was that guy that, Martin was being followed by, but his name was Kenny. So I don't know who Tommy was. He said that Joey intentionally, took advantage of his wife because he wanted to launder money through her business. He said if anything happens to him, he did it. So at this point, Joey's reading the letter and Joey's looking at this picture of Vanessa. And I'm trying to figure out if Joey was feeling guilt because he knows how this has affected his family, or if he's trying to come up with a plan on how he can turn this, because now him and Vanessa have gotten to a point in their relationship where I guess he has caught strong feelings for her or something, trying to figure it out, But sometimes I feel like, we get human parts of Joey, and then sometimes I feel like you just never know because Joey can be so deceitful, so manipulative. He can be so, disregarding. You know what I'm saying? Like, because at the end of the day, Joey is going to look out for Joey. Joey is going to do things to appease Joey. He's going to do things to watch out for himself. And so I'm just like, okay, well, we already know he's going to get rid of this letter because he cannot let Vanessa find out. Because if Vanessa finds out, it's no telling how she will react. It's no telling what she would do. Shoot, for all we know, Vanessa might be like, oh, well, and roll with it. You just never know. But then we've seen parts where Vanessa has just felt so much guilt about, what happened to Doug and how she was so out the loop and, how she didn't know, what was going on with his addiction. Just all kinds of things, right? And then his kids, like, this has greatly affected his kids. Like, the daughter is Deanna was starting to spiral. Dang near, Sorry, y'all. I was trying to find the words that I wanted to use because I'm just like stunned because I'm just like, Joey, you slime ball. like you have really altered this whole family's everything for your gain. So then, not only is Joey, not only did Joey plan to have Randy, follow Deanna and see what she's up to, because he's trying to figure out what Deanna's up to. Sidebar, Randy feels conflicted about it, which I mentioned he was going to be like that last episode because he was close to Doug. Doug was his best friend, his childhood friend. So how was he going to take, taking advantage of his daughter or possibly trying to scheme and, find something out about his daughter or see what his daughter's doing? He might end up, like I said, helping Deanna take Joey out for all we know. But it's just the fact that, like, it's crazy that all of this just transpired like this, you know? And so, Joey sends Randy a text message and say, get to my place. And this is in the middle of Randy having a conversation with Hayley, and they talking about they plan on what moving forward with Bill, and because Bill was in the hospital and all that. And so it's just like, okay, noted. You know what I mean? So Randy finally gets over to Joey's penthouse, and Joey was just like, I need for you to find out, if Doug has any type of secure lockbox or any type of, account or anything like that where, he could keep stuff at. And I'm just like, now how in the world would Randy know that? And then tell him not to let Vanessa know. How in the world would Randy be able to find out if Doug has a secure lockbox anywhere? Joey, you got connections like that at banks and stuff? Investment, like safety deposit box. Like how would you know that? How would he know that without, unless he talked to Deanna? But why would Deanna take him to a safety deposit box? I don't know. Anyway, I'm just like, so now because Joey possibly feels guilty or is trying to maintain this lie he done built for so long, now he's got to try to figure out if Doug has anything else in any other place that could possibly tear down his whole scheme. And then we see Joey burn the letter. So I'm just like, dang. This was the only facet of truth that we had where Vanessa could have possibly found out what exactly was going on. And now Joey has burned it. Dang. Don't be afraid now, Joey. You want to be big and bad? If you get found out, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. He trying his best to cover his tracks. And honestly, I don't know if he's just stringing Vanessa along or if at this point, if he's actually into Vanessa. Or maybe he could be so into Vanessa that he don't want her to find out the truth. Who knows? Then I'm just like, dang. It's a lot going on. One thing that I did forget to mention though, before I end this, before I'm done with my review, is that as we know, Bill was in the hospital. Bill has checked himself out of the hospital. Chelsea was furious. We finally found out that Jacob was informed that Bill was in the hospital, and he did ask about Bill's well-being, because I sure mentioned that in my last review. Chelsea tries to get her father to stay in the hospital. But as we know, Bill don't like hospitals. And Madison brought that back up this episode. Because my main thing was like, they was fussing at Bill about being in the hospital, but they forgot that Bill don't like the hospital. Or, maybe the audience forgot that Bill don't like the hospital. But Madison did bring that back up and was just like, and the fact that he despises hospitals doesn't make it any better. But yeah, he was ready to get out of there. The hospital creeps Bill out. Bill said he had work to do. Bill said he couldn't be laid up, poked and prodded no more. Chelsea looked at Madison and was like, Madison, do something. And Madison was like, what? I can't make him stay. I can only advise him to. Bill, it's best that you stay. We need to run tests. Bill don't want to stay. And of course, that's music to Hayley's ears. Chelsea done called Hayley and was like, do something. And so Hayley pops up at the law firm and was just like, your daughter called me concerned, putting on her charade, because we all know that she glad that he left, because now she can continue with her plan to keep giving him poison, because she think that he's knocking on death's door, and she thinking that, she about to land a job. And I just can't wait till her and Joey get busted. We were so close. So close. But yeah, y'all, that's all for my review. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your comments down below in this episode. And I will be back with more. This is